The gym had already gone quiet by the time I finished packing up my gear. The echo of bouncing balls, shouted drills, and sneakers scraping across the floor had faded into a dull stillness. Only the hum of the old overhead lights remained, buzzing softly like they were tired of staying awake. I swung my bag over my shoulder and was about to head out when I noticed someone still sitting by the far bench, stretching his leg with a wince he thought no one could see. Liam Carter, our star forward, our loudest trash talker, the guy who usually acted like pain wasn't even part of his vocabulary. The sight of him hunched over, jaw clenched, struck me strange enough to stop in my tracks. "You good?" I called out, trying to keep it casual. Liam looked up quickly, like he'd been caught doing something embarrassing. "Yeah, fine. Just overworked it tonight." But the tightness around his eyes said otherwise. I walked closer. "You've been limping since the last scrimmage." That didn't look fine. He rolled his eyes but didn't deny it. "Reyes, I swear, you worry more than our trainer." He tried to stand, but the moment he put weight on his left ankle, his face twisted. Not the dramatic kind he did when he wanted attention, but real pain. He wobbled, losing balance, and I instinctively stepped forward, catching his arm before he fell. His muscles tensed under my grip, and for a moment, we just stayed there, him leaning on me pretending the contact didn't make my chest tighten. "Okay, maybe not completely fine," he muttered. "No kidding," I said, helping him steady himself. "Sit, before you break something else." He sighed and let himself drop back onto the bench. I crouched in front of him, checking the ankle the way our coach always showed us. It was swollen, warm to the touch. Liam watched me, the joking spark in his eyes replaced by something softer. I tried not to think about it. He had a boyfriend, a long-term one, a guy named Mark who always looked at me like he could tell I felt more for Liam than I should. So I focused on the injury instead. Just the ankle, just the swelling, just the job of a teammate. "You twisted it pretty bad." I said, "You shouldn't drive." Liam let out a humorless laugh. "Mark was supposed to pick me up tonight, but he forgot." Again. He didn't hide the bitterness. He didn't have to. Anyone on the team could see that things between them had been off lately, even if Liam pretended they weren't. "You want to ride?" I asked. It came out too fast, too eager. I swallowed and added, "I mean, just so you don't put weight on it." Liam lifted a brow like he caught the slip, but he nodded. "Yeah, thanks." Getting him to the car was slow. He leaned on me the whole way, warm and heavier than he looked. Every step reminded me how close we were, how easy it would be for someone to see us and start asking questions. But he needed me, so I kept going. When we reached his apartment, he tried to brush me off again. "You don't have to come up. I can handle it." "You can't even walk straight," I said. "I'm helping you inside." "That's it." He didn't argue. Not really. His apartment was dim, lit only by a small lamp in the corner. A framed photo of him and Mark lay face down on the kitchen counter, like someone knocked it over and never bothered to fix it. The place felt lonely in a way I didn't expect. Not messy, just quiet. "Living room," Liam said, gesturing. "Couch is fine." I helped him sit, then grabbed an ice pack from the freezer like I'd been there 100 times before. He watched me move around his place with a strange expression. Curious, almost grateful, but tired. So tired. "Sorry," he said suddenly. "You didn't plan on playing nurse tonight." "It's fine," I said, placing the ice gently over his ankle. "Really?" He exhaled, leaning back into the couch cushions. The rain started outside, tapping the windows softly. The room felt smaller, darker, quieter. Liam looked at me for a long moment, his voice low when he finally spoke. "Ethan, you didn't have to stay." "I know," I said, "but you looked like you didn't want to be alone." His eyes softened. He didn't deny it. And that silence between us, heavy, warm, dangerous, felt like the beginning of something neither of us wanted to name. That was the moment I realized the night wasn't going to stay simple. Not with him looking at me like that. Not with all the things we didn't say simmering beneath the surface. I didn't know what would happen next. I just knew something had already changed. Liam shifted on the couch, trying to find a position that didn't make him wince. I sat on the small ottoman in front of him, not too close, but close enough to help if his ankle throbbed again. The rain outside kept tapping against the windows in a steady rhythm, like the night itself wanted to keep us in that quiet bubble. He let out a slow breath, the kind that comes from pain, but also from something heavier than injury. I could tell, because he wasn't looking at his ankle anymore. He was looking at me. You ever feel like you're screaming into a room and no one hears you? He asked, his voice calm but frayed at the edges. I didn't answer right away. I wasn't sure if he was talking to me or talking to himself. Sometimes, I said, "Why?" Liam rubbed his palms over his face. Mark and I don't know. It feels like I'm holding everything together alone. When did that become normal? His voice cracked slightly, and he caught himself, pretending it didn't happen. Forget it. I don't know why I'm dumping this on you. Because I'm here, I said without thinking. And because you need to say it to someone. He looked at me again, but this time something in his eyes was unguarded, bare, honest. It wasn't something he showed often. Liam was the guy who made jokes when things got serious, who turned feelings into punchlines, so he didn't have to sit with them. But tonight, there were no jokes. "I feel stupid," he muttered. "Like, I know Mark cares. I think he does. He just stops trying sometimes. And I keep hoping it'll go back to the way it used to be." The way he said "used to be" made my stomach drop. That phrase always means something's been breaking for a long time. "It shouldn't hurt this much," Liam continued. "But it does." I wanted to say something helpful, something wise. Instead, I said the truth. Feeling alone in a relationship, that hurts more than being alone. Liam stared at me, like he wasn't expecting that honesty. Or maybe he wasn't expecting me to understand so clearly. The room went still again, rain filling the silence but not breaking it. He shifted a little, and I helped him adjust the ice pack. His fingers brushed mine by accident. It was barely anything, just a touch, but it sent a sharp awareness through me. I pulled my hand back gently, trying not to be obvious. "You always do that," he said quietly. "Do what?" "Be careful. Careful with everything. With people. With me." He swallowed. "Mark doesn't look at me the way you do." I felt my heart stutter. This was dangerous territory. Too honest. Too raw. Too close to a line we shouldn't cross. "Liam," I said softly, "you're exhausted. You're in pain. Tonight's been—" "I'm not imagining it," he interrupted. His voice wasn't loud, but it was steady. "I know what I feel." He wasn't talking about the ankle anymore, and I wasn't sure how to breathe. He leaned back against the couch, staring up at the ceiling like he was searching for answers there. "You ever wonder why some people make you feel calmer? Like you can actually breathe around them?" I didn't trust myself to speak, so I just nodded. "That's what it feels like with you," he said, eyes lowering to meet mine again. "And it scares me." I felt the words hit somewhere deep, somewhere I didn't have defenses. I'd spent months pretending my feelings were nothing, just admiration, just respect, just friendship. But hearing him say that made it impossible to pretend. "You shouldn't say things like that." I whispered. "You're with someone." Liam exhaled slowly. "I know, and that's the part that makes us messed up." He paused, and the next words came out even softer. "But it doesn't change that it's true." The room seemed to shrink. My chest tightened. I wanted to move away. I wanted to move closer. I wanted everything and nothing at once. He shifted again, this time letting his head rest lightly against my shoulder. It wasn't intimate in a physical way. It was the kind of closeness people only allow when they trust deeply. But trust is its own kind of intimacy. And that kind of intimacy can be just as dangerous. "We shouldn't do this," I murmured. "Then why does it feel like we already did?" he replied, barely above a whisper. We sat there for a long time, the rain filling the silence with a steady rhythm. No one moved. No one spoke. And yet everything was being said in the space between us. I didn't know what tomorrow would bring. I didn't know what he would choose, or what I should choose. All I knew was that tonight, something shifted, quietly, deeply, and in a way neither of us could take back. And sitting there with his weight leaning gently into me, I realized the line we crossed wasn't physical. It was emotional. And that's the kind of line that leaves the deepest mark. Morning light filtered softly through the thin curtains, casting a pale glow across the living room. The rain had stopped some time before sunrise, leaving the world outside washed clean and quiet. Inside, though, nothing felt clear. I woke up slowly, realizing I had drifted off sitting upright, my back stiff, my neck aching slightly. Then I felt the weight against me. Liam. His head rested lightly on my shoulder, his breathing slow and even. For a moment, I didn't move. I just watched him, peaceful in a way I hadn't seen in months. And then reality caught up. We had fallen asleep like that. Too close, too comfortable, too honest. Nothing physical happened. But the emotional line we crossed felt louder in the silence of morning. I gently shifted my shoulder to wake him. His eyes opened, hazy with sleep at first, then suddenly aware. He lifted his head quickly, like he realized exactly where he was. "Morning," he said, voice rough. "Hey," I replied, my throat tight. "Your ankle okay?" He nodded slowly. "A little better. I guess the ice helped." But his eyes weren't on his ankle. They were on me, searching, hesitant, apologetic. The moment stretched, filled with everything neither of us wanted to say out loud. Finally, he broke the silence. "About last night? You don't have to explain," I said quickly, standing up before my emotions could betray me. "It was a long day. You were hurting. You were vulnerable. It was just—" "It wasn't just that," he interrupted quietly. "You know it." I swallowed. He was right. Denying it would have been a lie. And we were past pretending. "But it can't happen again," I said, forcing the words out. "You're with Mark." His face tightened, the mention of the name landing heavily between us. He leaned back against the couch, shoulders slumping. "Yeah, Mark." He said it like the word itself exhausted him. At that exact moment, his phone buzzed on the armrest. The screen lit up bright with notifications. Missed calls from last night, messages stacking one after another. And then a new one appeared in real time. "Where are you? We need to talk." Liam stared at the phone for a long second before turning it face down. "Great timing," he muttered. "You should talk to him," I said, though the words scraped inside my chest. He looked up at me, the weight in his eyes heavy enough to pull the air from my lungs. "What if I don't want to?" he asked. I forced myself not to react. "You need clarity, Liam, even if it's hard." He sighed again, deeper this time. "You make it sound so simple." "It's not," I said. "But staying in between, that's not fair for anyone. Not for him. Not for you. Not for me." That last part hung in the air, raw and unfiltered. Liam's gaze softened. "Last night, being with you, it felt different. I don't feel that way with Mark anymore." His voice cracked slightly, but he didn't look away. "I haven't for a long time." Hearing him say it didn't feel like victory. It felt like heartbreak. "Then you need to decide what you want," I replied quietly. "But don't decide because of me. Decide because of you." He nodded slowly, absorbing my words. I grabbed my jacket from the chair and slung it over my shoulder, feeling an ache I couldn't name. "You're leaving?" he asked. "You need space," I said. "And I need to breathe." He didn't argue. But when I reached the door, he spoke again, his voice low but firm. "Ethan." I turned around. "Last night wasn't a mistake," he said. "It scared me, but it wasn't a mistake." My chest tightened. I didn't trust myself to speak, so I just nodded. Then I stepped out of his apartment, closing the door softly behind me. The hallway felt colder than it should. The walk to my car felt like miles. Every step echoed with the truth I didn't want to face. Whatever happened from here on, we weren't going back to who we were before that night. Something had shifted too deeply. 3 days passed before we saw each other at practice again. We didn't rush toward each other or avoid each other completely. Instead, we exchanged a quiet, lingering look from across the court, one filled with everything unresolved and everything unspoken. He smiled, small and sad. I nodded back, calm on the outside, shaken underneath. Neither of us had answers. Neither of us knew where this was headed. But both of us knew the truth. Some lines, once crossed, don't fade. They stay. They echo. They follow you into every room afterward. And as I picked up the ball and stepped onto the court, the only thing I was certain was this. The night I helped him wasn't just a moment. It was a turning point. And no matter what choices came next, neither of us would forget it.